Hey, patrons. It's me, your best friend, and my best friend, Paul Tremblay.
Hi, everybody. That makes my arm looks disembodied when I do that. That's weird.
That is a
It's
little
my
bit
real
weird.
arm now.
You know what? That's interesting that you just showed your hand off because my hand is huge too.
Oh, big hands.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can you like palm a basketball?
Oh, yeah. I
I've
can
heard
do
of
all
you
sorts of
talking
weird
about
stuff with my hands. Like
that.
I'm double jointed. Can you do?
My son can do that, but
Oh,
I
yeah. I'm
can't do
better with this
that.
one.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly what my
Like what
son
they
can
call
do.
it, like hitchhiker's thumb.
Uh-huh. Ooh, look at
Bends.
that. It's
Yeah.
fancy.
I can put like my thumb through my hand. That usually freaks people out.
Oh yeah, mine doesn't come all the way out, but I can do
So
it.
anyway, I've never done that in a video before.
So
Next
that's
week,
we're
please.
we're just foregoing the whole basketball topic and we're just going to talk about weird things we could do with our bodies.
Yeah.
I hope that's interesting for everyone.
Well, that's it though. That's all I can do. So we just exhausted that. I guess
Multi-talented.
yeah.
Just for my patron peoples, just thought I would let you guys know that Paul Tremblay, I think he might be one of my first author friends. He might be one of the first authors that I messaged and told him that I hated him. Um,
In a good
that would
way.
be after disappearance of at Devil's Rock. The emotional horror that like
Hmm.
squeezes your guts and makes you feel like shit for the entire day. I might have messaged you and told you that I hated you.
Sounds
Um,
familiar.
but Paul is one of my favorite all-time authors. I think
Thank
he's
you.
brilliant. I think that all of his storytelling comes from the inside out, which is my favorite. So yeah. But today we're talking about basketball because Paul is a giant.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all I ever hear about you at cons is like how fucking tall
How
you are.
tall? Yeah,
Yeah.
6'4". I mean that is tall. Uh, I do enjoy being 6'4" because I wasn't always tall. Like when I was in high school, I had scoliosis, curvature of the spine.
Oh yeah.
My upper spine was curved pretty badly. To the point where I had surgery right after high school.
Oh
And
wow.
I was 6 foot when I went under the knife, and when I woke up, I was 6'3" because they straightened me out with metal
Oh.
rods and stuff.
Oh
And then I
yeah.
grew another inch after that. So
Wow, that is fascinating. I actually worked for a woman whose daughter had it too, and she had to do this like kind of rack style thing every night,
yeah,
and
I
then
did the
she also
brace
had to
too.
wear the brace.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the brace doesn't like I had curves in other parts, which it helped, but like if it's high up, at least this. I mean, this was a long time ago too. I'm sure they've got other techniques, but at the
Yeah.
time, like the brace, it's really hard to get at curves in the upper spine with brace and other stuff like that. Um, but yeah, so here I am. Like my first driver's license said I was 5'6" because that was my height on my permit when I was 16. So like for years when I had my first license, I was paranoid that people would think it would be a fake ID. Because
Yeah.
there I was at 6'4" with a
They're like,
license
"No,
that
you're
said I was
not."
5'6". Yeah.
Yeah. And did you play basketball in school?
I did not. Uh, my basketball experience is really like as a kid, it was just me in my backyard by myself, just shooting hundreds of shots, keeping track, and just imagining I was Larry Bird, even though I wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was super skinny. Like I'm thin now, but I'm like 6'4", 200. Like when I graduated, I was 6 foot, 140. Um, but like once I had the 6'4", like I instantly became like a much better basketball player and kind of didn't play for the college team. I went to Providence College, which is a Division I team, but certainly tore it up in intramurals and played all the time. And then at the school I teach at, I've been the JV basketball coach for a really long time.
Yeah.
So I've just been in and around basketball for a long time.
You are such a basketball coach. Like if somebody were to just say like, "Look at this man and tell me what he does for a living," I'd be like, "He's a writer or a basketball coach." And
Yeah,
you're
I don't
both.
know. It's fun. I have to admit, I don't know if I didn't really miss it a whole ton this past year. I didn't
Yeah.
coach this past year. I mean, I do enjoy it, but also I don't know. I'm
It's
just
a
at a point
rigorous
where
schedule.
I just want to do more writing than teaching and coaching.
Yeah.
But I did miss it a little bit. I used to coach my kids' teams and stuff like that. So I mean, that was fun. I think people would be surprised to see me as a coach. I'm getting better, but I would probably be a little bit more old school coach, like more yelling and less supportive than I probably should have been in my younger
Yeah.
days. But that's changing. But
I
yeah.
think that that's like a pretty accurate picture of basketball coaching, though, because I mean, well, I have a few stories about basketball. Like one of which is my dad played a lot, and so our hometown always sees him as like this basketball guy, this like hero person,
Mhm.
because he played in school and was really good and won us a lot of tournaments at our school. But then he went on to play like City League. And by that time, I was like a young teenager. So I would like go to all of his games. And he was one of those guys that would like, after he hit like a 3 point, he would look up at the scoreboard. And if it wasn't up there right away, he'd be like pointing at it, you know, and people in the stands would be like, dude, what a jerk, you know, like,
Yeah.
and I was sitting there hearing like all the shit they were talking about my dad. And then obviously, since he was so into basketball, they like tried to recruit me for the team when I was in school.
Right.
And I tried it one season, and they just stick you under the basket when you're tall and you get
Right.
fouled all day long. And I couldn't do a 3 pointer to save my life. I couldn't do the free throw.
Uh-huh.
And it's just, it's so pressury. Like it's so like quiet and everyone's staring at you.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
would just be like, there's no way I'm going to sink this, you know? A lot of like crippling self doubt with basketball. So I got out of that really quickly.
Yeah. I mean, that must have been like a lot of pressure, given your dad's success and your height, and people just
Yeah.
expect you to,
Yeah.
I
To
would
good.
assume as as a woman to be good at basketball because you're so tall.
Yeah. And then obviously like that's the question you get asked all the time too.
Mhm.
Like one time I got on a plane with my grandpa and this guy asked me if I played basketball and I just kind of sheepishly was like, no. And then I sat down and then this old man like leans over to me in the aisle and he's like, next time somebody asks you if you play basketball, ask him if he plays miniature golf.
I like
And
that.
that stuck with me forever. I've been using it.
Or you could say something like, "I know I'm a jockey." Like, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, "What?"
You're a smart ass.
Yeah.
So what are you going to show us today?
Oh boy. Okay. So, I wish I don't have a basketball net in my driveway anymore. It sort
Aw.
of just like fell apart, dilapidated. So I guess I was going to show just a couple of videos I shot. I'll start talking over them too, I suppose.
Yeah, that's going to be
Um,
fun. It's like a show and tell in
okay.
school.
So I'm going to share the screen. It's going to look weird for a second. It's going to be infinite, infinite. Um, there we go. There's the
Yeah,
infinite,
infinite.
infinite StreamYard. um, so this is at my school. So I get, free access to to the basketball court there. I don't know. I was just messing around. This is actually
Oh gosh.
the first time I was playing after I'd really hurt my left knee pretty bad.
Yeah.
Ignore my lack of handle. I was rusty.
Yeah.
So this was April, and I had hurt my knee in January, and also was told that I have like arthritis in my knees too. So
Aw.
I don't. I haven't, between the pandemic and everything else, I really haven't played much. I do miss just shooting around, but also like all the years of basketball, I'm starting to
Dang. Look
my
at
knee
you.
my knees are starting to break down, and my back too. I missed this last one. I should probably stop the video before I answer this one.
No, we do want to see you miss. You're not a magical genius.
Uh-huh. Oh, there's one more from the same part. This one's kind of funny just because I sort of talk trash to like a 12-year-old who walks by.
Yeah,
Well, I
you're
didn't do a
like,
good job of getting myself into
yeah.
the screen here.
It reminds me of that game
So again,
Horse. Did you ever play that?
oh yeah, all the time.
Did you kick
Um,
the ball?
I did just to pass it myself. This was a deep one, by the way. That was a
Look
good
at that.
3 or 4 steps behind.
What did they say to you?
I think they were talking to other kids down there, and I just said, "Hey, that
Oh,
just showing them my shooting ability." So it's really, oops, yeah, just like misspent youth. Like I said, every day, like we had an old dilapidated garage. All the windows were busted, so my father just put up like plywood on it.
yeah,
So all the basketballs bouncing off it wouldn't damage it. It was also kind of cool because I could put a foot on the plywood and try to push off, to try to
yeah.
get up to dunk it later when I was older. But yeah, I just would shoot by myself all the time. And I don't know, that's where my fantasy world was. I would just think about stuff. And, I wasn't a writer then, but certainly I know that's like in retrospect where I was just, making up, stories for my own life, like, or imagining I was, like most kids do, playing for somebody and hitting like the important shot kind of thing. Yeah. Now, I mean, I used to be, and still am, like if I have time, like obsessive about it, like I keep track of how many I make and, try to hit a certain percentage and stuff like that.
Yeah, would you say that like your interaction with kids in your coaching life, do you think that like being around them and engaging with them in different kind of capacities, do you think that that's like a real asset to your writing? Because you do write a lot of like young, um, not always necessarily children, but like young
Right.
adults.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a great lesson, teaching and coaching. It's a great lesson in voice, hearing them, you know, what they talk, how they say it, especially in my school, which is really small. So what tends to happen is not even like region specific, but like school specific slang will start bubbling
Yeah,
up. A lot of which I used in Disappearance of Devil's Rock and also
yeah,
in Survivor Song. Um, yeah, so I mean, it's kind of fun. Like every 3 or 4 years, like new words will be made up to mean essentially sort of like the same thing. Um, because our school is 7th grade through 12th, so like the younger kids will see like the older kids and hear them talking, and then by the time they're the older kids, they sort of took that and maybe changed it a little bit. So yeah, for me, it's hard not to pick up on that and just
sure.
see it and use it. To the point
And,
where
and
it
plus you
kind
have
of
kids too.
yeah. Yeah, it kind of. I mean, sometimes like I'll come across a review as like, "Oh, teens don't talk like that." I was like, "Well, they don't talk like that around you, maybe." Or it's like you're in a totally different part of the country. Every place is going to be, somewhat different.
Yeah, I actually saw one of those reviews too, and I will shamefully say that I interacted with one because I was like, I'm sorry, but he's like a teacher. Like how would and he has children. Like how would he not understand how kids talk if he's around them like all day? He teaches math. Like you hear and you listen and you observe children for a living. Like
Yeah. Well,
I
I
don't
think
understand that.
yeah, like I said, it's the slang is different. Different parts of the country, and which to me was really interesting. Um, but yeah, definitely, I've been using it as a writer. And now I kind of feel like my kids are older now, so I feel like I'm almost at like this crossroads. Like, geez, am I going to continue to write about teens and stuff like that, or am I going to write around, or write about like you know parents who have their kids gone, or kind of thing, and age
Uh-huh.
with have my stories age with me. But I don't know.
Oh, I could just when you said that, I was like, you should do like an empty nesting horror, you
Oh, there
know?
definitely will be at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, because well, actually, like that's I'm really glad that we had a child like a little bit later because we had our two like really close up front
Mhm.
in our marriage, and then we kind of waited a long time and had another one. And if we didn't do that, I would be empty nesting right now at
Right.
45 years old. So, that and it is an odd feeling to not have that energy in your house anymore
Yeah.
and like just kind of the stillness that could be very atmospheric, I feel like.
Yeah. Now, even now, like my youngest is about to turn 17, but she got her license a couple months ago. But it's already like a preview of, many nights both kids are out
Yep.
doing their own thing. We're just
Yep.
home alone.
Yeah, us too.
Yeah.
It's actually a good feeling though too, like when you go to like cons and parties and stuff like that, you're living that kind of like adult lifestyle, instead of like
Right.
thinking about the babysitting and the kids and
Oh, sure.
which
Definitely.
is cool. Yeah. So what are you doing now in terms of writing? Like fill us in a little bit.
Sure. So I just turned, well, earlier this month, I turned in edits for my book called The Pallbearers Club. Um,
I'm so
so
excited.
that'll be out next summer. And so that book is very memoir-y. Well, it's presented as a memoir, but it's clearly, it's a novel. But I definitely use, a, you know, a ton of autobiographical stuff. It's essentially sort of an alternate path I might have taken. But I didn't get to write much about basketball. There's one scene of basketball, but not as much as as it represented like how often I was outside by myself shooting. But
Yeah, yeah.
I know, like I feel like Stephen Graham Jones threw down the basketball gauntlet with the Only Good Indians. So many people like, oh, I love how he used basketball in there. I'm like, get
Yeah.
it. I'm gonna
Yeah,
have to do it at some
totally.
point.
I'm actually watching this show that is like giving me Stephen Graham Jones vibes like every day.
Hmm.
Did you watch it's called Reservation Dogs on Hulu?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna plug that. Like it's it's called Reservation Dogs, like kind of like Reservoir Dogs, a riff
Right.
on Reservoir Dogs. So they're like these kids who are just trying to get out of the res, and they have interactions with like these other kids, and there's sort of like this gang rivalry between these two groups of like teenage kids, and just all this like, I don't know, introspective moments in a teenager's life, but plus also like goofy stuff. And then there's like a police officer who literally is Stephen Graham Jones. Like, he is him.
Okay.
And it's so great. And I saw that he tweeted that he really liked the show too. So that made me happy, because, you know, sometimes you don't know if like the whole cultural aspect is coming through or being
Right.
translated properly to TV, but he really liked it. So now I'm really thrilled to watch it.
Okay.
So
Nice.
you have to.
Good to
It's
know.
on Hulu.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Pallbearers Club, but you have to give us more information.
Oh, so the story opens with this kid who's so he calls himself Art Barbara, like he said he changed all the names, which is a name that I saw on wallpaper in the old. It's not the Biltmore anymore in Providence, downtown Providence. It's called something else. So the Biltmore was or is this old hotel in downtown Providence, kind of spooky, but they sold it to something else. It renamed it, and they made all the rooms look a lot more like hipster.
Yeah.
So anyway, one of these rooms I was in, like the wallpaper looked like a cartoon, almost like a set of bookcases. And they had some real books in there and some fake ones, as far as I could tell. Now I saw the name Art Barbara, and then a Boston / Rhode Island accent. The name just cracks me up, like Art Barbara. It's like, I have to use that at some point. So that's what the person writing this book names himself, Art Barbara. But anyway, he's in high school. He's this self-identifying loser, doesn't have friends, and desperate to get out. So this is 1988. It opens in, and he comes up with an idea because he has no extracurricular activities, because he doesn't really do anything at the school. So he's going to start what's called the Pallbearers Club, where they're going to volunteer at a local funeral home to serve elderly or homeless who don't have any relatives that are going to come and visit them, or attend the services.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So kind of sweet, but also still kind of weird and morbid, because it's volunteering at a funeral home.
Yeah.
So eventually, this strange older, though he's not sure how much older, woman joins the club, and she becomes this maybe or maybe not supernatural figure, throughout the rest of his life.
Yeah.
I don't want to say too much.
Don't say too much. I'm already like super intrigued. I mean,
so like the first half of the book probably takes place less than the first half. Maybe the first 40% takes place in the late 80s, but then it starts going into the 90s and the aughts, and eventually up to almost present times.
Do you feel like you have to do like research for a book that's era specific like that, like happens in a really specific time, or do you have like a clear enough memory of everything?
Yeah, so for this one, the research I had to do was all related to this mysterious character named Mercy. So yeah, but in terms of like timeline now, like because most of the time I was just riffing off of things that actually I had done or had happened to me. So like things that I had memories of, so I wasn't really too worried about that
like
sort of aspect
the music
of it.
And stuff like that's all filed away.
Right.
Yeah. And do people really do volunteer at funeral homes? Like, is that an actual thing?
Well, the idea came from a kid at my school. This was like fall of 2019. Got up, on Monday mornings where the school gets together for announcements and stuff. And he got up there and said, "Hey, I'm doing this thing called the Pallbearers Club." And I was like, "What?" And so I was like, "Oh my God, I have to use this."
Yeah, that's a title.
And I usually have like a little notebook with me. So I was like, "Oh, I definitely got to use that." And, pretty early, I was like, "Oh, like, how would I do this?" I was like, "Oh, I could be, I want to base the main character off of how I was in high school." And, this is still pre-pandemic. Like I'd already, especially after writing Cabin at the End of the World and then Survivor Songs, both books, which were sort of me purposefully writing about now, like what we're experiencing both politically and culturally now. Like I really wanted to take a little bit of a break from that and do something different. So like, oh, I'm going to write about, not an 80s novel, but I definitely going to go back to 88 and sort of write more about my experience. So something that was a little bit more inward as opposed to me reacting to, what was happening now. Cause I felt like I already done that for 2 books. So it was kind of weird how that worked out. Like I didn't start writing the book until 2020, but like the book was there. I was just letting it sort of like sit and stew before I would, before I started writing like a synopsis or anything like that.
Well, would this be the first time you've done something sort of semi-autobiographical and wrote yourself into it?
Um,
Because I feel like,
Certainly nothing to this extent, but I mean, everything has,
yeah.
I mean, A Head Full of Ghosts definitely has a bunch.
And that lemonade story,
Yeah, the Lemonade story.
I feel like that was like a little Paul
Oh
Tremblay.
yeah, absolutely. That was based off of me, although none of the other stuff had really happened. Um, Whereas
You
this one,
didn't really get it to go into the spooky house.
no, I didn't. Yeah, the spooky house I made is my grandparents' house, which was
Yeah.
spooky. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Like, the old Tsar is like, the first novel you ever write is really autobiographical, and that's why a lot of writers have a hard time with writing the second novel, because they wrote their quote unquote their story with the first book. Now what do you do, kind of thing.
Right.
So I mean, I definitely feel like I got past that, but now I'm sort of returning to it, and in this, with this book, returning into it like whole hog. I love, like, Jeffrey Ford has been writing a ton of short stories lately where he and his wife Lynn are characters. I just love those.
I just got
Um,
this.
Big Dark Hole, yeah. So
Yeah.
there's a bunch of those kind of stories in there.
Yeah, and the cover, like, first of all, let me just show. Look,
Yeah,
that is why I bought it. And then I haven't read anything, I don't think, unless he's been in an anthology and I've read it. But also, this is like a weird bookish person thing, but like not enough spines are pink. So let that just be a word to everyone. Like, I like pink.
yeah. He has a story in Echoes. I don't know if you read all of Echoes, that
I
giant
did read most of it. Yeah.
ghost anthology. So you might have read that one. But no,
Mhm.
Jeff's one of my favorite writers, and he's such a cool person. Very funny, down to earth guy
Yeah,
with a
that's
thick
cool.
Jersey accent.
I can't wait to meet more people at cons. Like, I mean, I'm supposed to go to Merrimack in October, but who
Right.
knows? Like
Yeah.
what is going to happen? But that's the plan. And then
Right.
Scares That Care next year is definitely a go. My
Mhm.
tickets are floating over to that.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah. I just was so unsure about this last Scares. Like, I was just like, I don't know, between like
Yeah.
everyone wearing masks and it not being like a full experience, and then with Delta, and Delta wasn't even a thing when we had to decide if we were going to go.
Right.
So I'm kind of glad that I decided not to go.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, my wife and I just got back from a trip down to Key West, where we'd never been before.
Mm-hmm.
My cousin and his husband had rented like a place for a month that had like a little mini house with it. It was cool. They
Yeah.
basically rented 2 mini houses, so we had a free place to stay. So we're like, oh yeah, we'll definitely go for both of our big birthdays, which happened this summer. When I say big, the number 50.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
having a hard time with it.
five.
But no,
Oh.
it was so much fun down
Yeah.
there, but it was stressful too, just because, because of because of Delta, and there's like
Everything.
so many people around. We were careful and ate outside every time,
Yeah.
but still there were just so many people around.
Yeah. I
And
mean, we've ventured out and have gone to the movies because movies are open now.
uh-huh.
But our particular theater, it's like not a risk at all. Like, they have these leather lounge banquettes. So your
Mhm.
banquette is like its own thing, its own unit, and then they
Yeah,
block out the ones next to you, and then it's like a raked theater. So like the people behind you are far enough behind, and the people in
yeah,
front of you, and then you just wear your mask and it feels
right.
fine.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I haven't been to the theater yet, but that does sound good.
yeah. Yeah, we saw The Green Knight, which I think you would like.
Yeah, everyone seems to like that one.
Yeah, you would like it.
I just saw it's going to be on streaming like one day randomly this month. Excuse me, just for one day.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
When?
I don't know. I have to read it. I think the AV Club had posted it, and I just scanned it.
Oh,
Like, I didn't get to read the full, because I don't think it's going to be somewhat of a surprise. I think I just know it's going to be later this month.
yeah, that's cool. A lot of people should see it then, because it is really my husband hated it, but he hates movies
Oh
that are
yeah.
like are more artistic than they are like story driven. So
Does your husband read horror? Does he read any of the books that you
he
like?
doesn't.
No.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah.
I'm an influencer for Penguin and William Morrow and stuff, so I'll just like grab titles that I think that he would like, but they're mostly like nonfiction, or
Hmm.
like comedians will do like a biography, so I'll pick those up for him, but
Sure.
he doesn't read fiction now,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
How about your
But
kids?
good.
No, do they? Are they?
Oh,
What
no.
do they think of your horror
They
sort of life?
Yeah, so I mean, they brag on it a lot,
Yeah.
like obviously, like when Stephen King followed me, my daughter told her entire Trader Joe's place. So like every time I go in there, I'm like this like minor celebrity. So that's funny. But and they don't read books like I do, but they do read graphic novels. Like they're
Oh,
huge
nice.
devourers of
Yeah.
I mean, they are more knowledgeable about anything going on in the graphic novel arena.
Yeah.
So that both my 15-year-old and my daughter like consume those. So that I mean that's reading
Absolutely.
for
Yeah.
me, in my opinion. I'm happy
Right.
with that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't really come to reading for pleasure until like my early 20s. So I went off to grad school.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I could totally picture like some of your novels as a graphic novel, actually.
I would love, yeah. I mean, I know nothing about writing comic scripts, but yeah, someday I would like to.
Yeah. Like I
Um,
mean, Survivor Song I could see definitely being something translatable into a graphic novel.
I would love it. Yeah. I mean, I don't know like what the deal is for like the rights and stuff, but yeah, anyone listening want to do a graphic novel
Yeah, let's make it happen. Fingers crossed.
of one of the things, let's do it.
I have a question.
Sure.
You don't have to answer it if you
Oh,
can't or
okay.
won't. But so Stephen King gave your first book, A Head Full of Ghosts, this like shout out on Twitter, which is how
Mhm.
I found you originally.
That's
I
how
was
I
like,
found me.
that's how I found me. No, so I found you through that, and then he's been a fan of your work pretty much ever since. Correct? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
do you send it to him at this point, or is he just picking up what you're putting out?
Yeah. After a Head Full of Ghosts, I've been sending him stuff sort of
Yeah,
directly.
yeah,
With the Head Full of Ghosts, though, was Luck, and I know I don't want to say their names because I don't want people to be like, oh, they're going to go ask those
sure,
same people to get
sure,
their books to Stephen. But
yeah,
sort of unbeknownst to me, just a couple of acquaintances who are friends with, or I shouldn't say acquaintances, a couple of friends slash acquaintances who, um, are friendly with or friends with Stephen. Both of them sort of individually or independent of each other. And I told them, the summer of 2015 is like, hey, you should really read this book. Maybe one of them even send it to him. I don't know. So
yeah,
I'd actually heard like in July, it's like, oh yeah, like one of them had said, hey, I told Steven you should definitely read your book, So I was like, ooh, maybe he'll read it. And then, then it was like,
you
July went,
forgot.
and well, I didn't forget. I was like, he probably gets 1,000 books, and not
Yeah,
probably. I know he gets thousands of books, and maybe he didn't like it, or who knows. So like,
yeah.
yeah, the tweet was, big surprise. It was,
And
I
he
mean, it
said
was
it
amazing.
scared the shit out of him, right?
Yeah, it scared the hell out of him. Yeah,
Oh, the hell, okay. Yeah, but same diff. I mean,
yeah, right.
as a horror fan, when Stephen King says that something scared him, like I think immediately that's a dog whistle to everybody to run out and buy it. So that's
No,
exactly
I mean that tweet definitely, it's like it's hard to measure sort of the impact. And it was because of how he phrased it too. I think,
yeah.
people like, oh, yeah,
Oh, what?
right.
Yeah.
So no, for sure. Eternally grateful. I mean, he turned me into a reader. Never mind, then years later tweeting about the book.
Yeah, that's
Um,
so cool.
yeah.
Very cool.
And even
Well,
I would end with years later, then him asking me when he was writing the Institute to check a math problem for me. At the beginning of the Institute, there's a kid talking about an SAT math problem.
yeah.
He wanted me to check the math.
And you did?
Yeah.
That's
He's like, oh,
awesome.
is there a better way to like say like a different way to explain like how someone could do the problem wrong? So yeah, just a little math tutoring for Steven.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love picturing him sitting there racking his little brain about that and then being like, oh, I'm going to ask Paul Tremblay.
Yeah.
That's
I've had
cool.
some, Stephen Grant Jones shoots me math questions sometimes. Yeah. Some the math person in the horror world, like Joe Hill wanted some math equations for his, oh shoot, I can't remember which, for a recent graphic novel series
Yeah,
that
his,
involved numbers. I
yeah.
can't remember the
Was
title of
it
it.
Heads?
It
That
might have been
Heads.
Heads, but like he wanted the beginning, like for each chapter is like one through whatever. Like he wanted like a crazy looking math equation to equal a certain number. So
Oh, I see.
I sent him a
You
few.
figured
Yeah.
that out for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, math is not something that comes naturally, especially for people who are also using their creative brain, a lot.
Yeah. There's a few of us out there. I know, like, Stuart Onan was an engineering, got an engineering degree before he became an amazing writer. So there's a few math writers out there.
Do you think that because math always gives you the right answer, do you think that that makes you in your writing try to be more logical and linear with your storytelling?
Um, well, I think the logic part definitely, because I feel like I'm always trying to, especially when the books are about ambiguity, like there's that balance I'm trying to keep. So I'm definitely in my head. I feel like I'm doing some sort of math equation where I'm trying to make it seem like equal, or is this plausible?
Yeah.
Um, as far as linear, no, because I mean, I definitely don't always do stuff that's sort of linear.
Yeah.
Jumping around. But like I'll write the story in the order in which I think it happens. Like if it's something that jumps around in timelines, I don't just do one timeline then the other and start mixing it up. I wish I
For
could,
sure.
but now I have to do it in the order I think it is.
And that's your math brain.
I think that's my
Like
math brain. Yeah.
keeping the ducks in a row.
Right.
That's cool. Paul Tremblay, you're cool.
Thank you, Sadie. So are you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on my show. It's like a real treat, and it's good to like finally talk to you after like however many years we've been chatting online. Someday we're gonna get to be in a con together. Oh no, I lost Paul. Okay, we're gonna end the broadcast.